Yeah, so again, just the three tools that you would use. The round nose, the cutters to cut, and the flat nose. These things such as here.
You said I grab mine.
Right. And also there's a flatter flat nose. There's a special broader flat nose. Yeah, broader flat nose. And these may come in handy also for whatever you feel as though you may need to use the flatter ones for versus this, not so flat ones. And having gotten the experience to communicate when and how to use them, it's just that when wrapping, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, let's just use this because will talk to you that says use something different. So generally speaking, we're going to work with 2 to 3 gauges here. And this copper comes from Amazon actually. Amazon, you get it by the spool, and it's usually they have different sizes, but working with a lot of copper, each one of these is a pound. So, and depending upon the thickness of it, it'll be a more or less. For example, this 18 gauge, this is 195 feet on here, and this 14 gauge doesn't have it on there. Let's see if the 16 gauge. The 16 gauge is 126 feet. So it's a little bit different, again, because of the thickness of it. But Amazon is a good place to get copper, pure copper. Pure copper is in there. It's not mixed with anything. There's no lacquer on it. So over time, it will turn darker or the antique look, the tarnished look. And when you sweat, it will turn the skin green. That's one form that, through sweating, because the water and the natural body oils, when it hits the copper, it will turn it, cause an oxidation process. Or if there's certain elements in the body, the copper is tend to be a natural antioxidant to draw certain toxins out of the body. So that's another reason why it may turn green or turn a different color, because either drawing things out or because you're sweating and working and the water and the oils cause that to happen. Now, the benefits of copper, generally speaking, would be it's good for your blood. And how's it good for your blood? Well, it nourishes your blood because copper is a trace mineral that the body needs for to do what it do, such as zinc, cobalt. There's a lot of trace minerals that the body needs, and copper is one of those trace minerals. And whenever you wear copper, it goes into the body like lotions. Anything you put on your skin, it goes into the body. Copper goes into the body like soap and oils and things like this. It goes directly into the body. It nourishes the blood, it feeds the blood. Also, on a metaphysical level, because copper is a good conductor of energy, all technology uses copper because it's a good conductor of energy, and because blood is energy, and we also have these organ meridians that run through our bodies. And copper promotes the flow of our blood and of our inner chi or energy. So it assists with arthritis, stiffness, carpal tunnel, things like that, because it promotes more of the blood to flow. Now, what happens if you add a crystal to the copper? It just flow with a specific purpose, because each crystal has a specific purpose. And apologizing because looking behind, and there's these cards that my person has that identifies the crystals. Don't have these cards this evening. Brought all the computer and technical stuff, but forgot the cards. The main thing, oversight, to say charge it to the head and not to the heart. So that's a disclosure on that. Right. Okay, so, and what we'll be working with for the most part would be the 14 gauge. And the larger the number, the thinner the gauge. And the smaller the number, the thicker the gauge. So this is a 14 gauge. This is rather sturdy and thick. This is 214. This is the 18 gauge. It's a little bit thinner and less sturdier. And this is a 20 gauge or 22. We'll show you how to work with this later. So, just for demonstration purposes, that's why the camera's here to record these things. Because working with copper for so long, you have the tendency to kind of, become good at it in a sense. Just wrap it and do it. So, during the demonstrations, my person will attempt to go slow to give you the idea of how it's done. However, there will be, once the demonstrations, there'll be like 4 or 5 quick demonstrations. And then after that, questions will be answered, for further insight, as well as to assist as you begin wrapping yourself. And to assist with this, there's also some demonstrations that have been placed. Demonstrations? Samples. That's good. It helped, you see. Teamwork. Some samples have been placed before you, right? And so with those samples, you get an idea also of what style you may wish to rap. So when that comes up, you can pay more attention, or if not, just kind of, get the flow of what's happening and, just open up your heart and just allow it to happen. That's the main thing here, working with crystals. Tend to naturally open yourself up, heart center, no matter what the crystal is. It tend to always facilitate opening up the heart, because in theory, by working with crystals, we have to be open anyway. And the heart is like the main center for communicating between the two worlds. We want to get the insight from Mother, Father, God, the ancestors, the deities, the Pawnet, the Ru, the Rishas, Ifa, ascended masters. You open up and allow it to come to that heart center. And even on earth, we want to, be the best we can be focused, be mindful, be present, be now. Let our heart guide us, because our heart tend to know before the brain, before anything knows. It comes to the heart first, generally speaking. So, any questions so far? Oh, all right.
We're ready.
Good. Been waiting long enough, right? Get the show on the road. So, remember to slow it down just because we're a little. Water too. So, the first wrapping will be more like the vortex, the gauge. Just like starting with the thin gauge first. This is like the 18 gauge. This may be a 16, but 18 gauge is a good gauge to work like the vortex with. And the difference in the vortex or the grid and the swirl is just that the vortex is just. Okay. We don't need you. Give thanks for the reminder. Right. The grid is just more or less, how to describe it? Just like a vortex, like a, well.
Are you talking about this grid?
Yeah, the crosses, the X's. It just creates like a,
Basket to support.
Support.
energetically, yes.
Energetically, oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
The swirl is easy to describe because the swirl, it's like a pointer that comes in, it wraps in one direction. But the vortex is more or less, that's what it is, more or less a grid, more or less in many directions. Well, so for example, this. So, sometimes it can be challenging to describe what you do. You just do it and flow. You say, well, what is it, what? It's like, searching for the words.
Right.
Nonetheless, some of the swirl generally allows energy to come into the swirl and just flow.
So you're talking about the different.
Energetically, yes.
Energetically, the patterns that you create draw the energy different.
Right, it draws energy
Focus
different.
draws and focuses.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
See, you're a good student. You keep you around here. Yeah.
Because I zoned out for a minute, so I missed one, and then the question kind of threw me. So I was like, okay.
Right. And so the vortex is not. It's just more or less coming at you like this. Whereas the swirl
Direct versus indirect.
right.
Okay.
It comes in right.
More soft.
Yes.
Gently, and as opposed to with force of the grid. The grid is more forceful than the
Yeah, it's like a
than the
masculine
swirl.
and feminine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know
You
what's
know.
more concerning, but I got it.
The thing is, you want to give as much information to be informative about what's happening, but realizing don't even know self, because again, just insight. It comes really natural, without even having a class. Just saw it done and just so I can do that. Just sat down and just did it, and just did it for self. And then once did it for self, people's like, oh, that's nice. You rap, man, you call someone, so they do that. You did. Then after a while, have a few crystals in my pocket. He was like, okay, they just start rapping, and it just came natural, And my person got into crystals because of the 7 chakras. We just said, okay, out of all the thousands of crystals out there, we only work with about maybe 20, about 18 to 20, about 2 or 3 per chakra, because that's all we're really concerned with personally, is aligning the 7 energy centers of the body. And if they're aligned and working in perfect harmony, then our heart and our mind are aligned, our personality is whole, and then our soul can infuse our personality, what's called a soul-infused personality, or the divine intelligence of God, able to connect to those higher frequencies, because there's no resistance, because we're one on the inside. So that's how my person got started with crystals, and we just began to work with them. And because people was asking questions, we said, okay, we can share you what we know. And so here we are, just sharing what we know about crystals and the rapping with crystals and what they do for you. So that's a disclaimer. We're not the expert, just kind of sharing our story. All right, so with that, let's just get to the rapping part. That's what we do. Okay, so there's this thing called the crystal man, right? Copper man, in which we take these needle nose, round nose, right? And if we take this maybe about halfway and place it here, about midway or something like that, the further back you go, the larger the loop would be. And the closer you go up here, the smaller it would be. But it's really a preference. And if you hold it back here, closer to this, it's more stable. So, and what you would do is just take it and twist it. Do a twisty here, like a loaf of bread. And the more that these legs are even, somewhat even, as in not one is up here and one is down here, then the twist will be off, because one will start to wrap around the other one. But if they're somewhat even, then the twist will be somewhat even, as such. And even if it's not even or not perfect, it's okay, because, it's perfect imperfection, like a snowman, like a flower. Everything is different. Even something that you would think is perfect symmetrically, it may not be, because of, this or the other. And so then you have what we'll call a little copper man, the head, the spine, and the legs. And so from here, it's easy to place a crystal here and wrap the legs around the crystal. And we may want to, say, straighten up not with a cutter though, that's not what we do. So even with these, it may work. So we just take this and a little bit, just to kind of straighten it up, as such. And you can squeeze it here, or maybe not. That's why these ones that's not so flat may come in a little bit handier. That is, if you want to shape it a little bit. And so what happens is, as you pull these legs back out, you have this copper man, and this is for the grid. This is a simple way to just make the grid, because you just place a crystal right on top of here. So the head is showing and the legs is showing. And it's right on the spine. And then all you do is you'll bring the legs up over the body. It's very central, this crystal wrapping. And because you're using all your fingers as well. Because the smoother the stone and this copper is round, it's easy to slip and slide around So we hold it here, and we bring one, or maybe both of them, because they wanna slip and slide already. So we just bring them up to the bottom, and see all the fingers are in play here. Something's happening like this, and the back is like this. And we're gonna do is just gonna take it around once, this top one around once, to secure the spine to the body as such.
So you wore it up to the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, right up to that neck. Uh-huh. And so this is where we come to the part where we nip and tuck. Because now, and this copper can come off flying, so we either want to hold it or point it down as you cut it. You want to hold it this time. Otherwise, it can go flying. Let it flying. You know, toenails go flying sometimes. Yeah, don't moisturize it. And then we take this one, right? And we can, the part that's cut is sharp. You know, it can puncture, rip your fine linen. So we just want to curve it around so it's just tucked in. And we take this, again, this is an extension of your fingers. Imagine your fingers just want to put it like sewing. You say, take this and just reach it around. So reach it around here. And as it comes around, it's up under. So it's up under, so therefore, there's no sharp edges. And it adds tightness to the copper and the crystal, and it becomes even more tighter once the second one is done. So we'll clip this one, and so again we'll take this, put this camera down a little bit to get a little better angle here, and so we will take this. Again, there's little room between the spine and the copper and the crystal. And if there's not enough room, you can take this and pull it up just a little bit. And if you pull it up, again, you want to be mindful to kind of hold what's in place the front, because the more that you pull the end, whether it be a swirl or whether it be the tuck it, sometimes it may change the design or may change this up a little bit. Sometimes. Just something to be mindful of. And again, we take this and we would curve it around under as such. Under the spine, yep. And this is a little long, so we can actually come around twice. Come around twice with it. Boom, and it's done. Pretty secure. The shake test. Yep, it's pretty secure off in there. So this is how that's the, and again, that's only one X. You know, you can, depending on the size of the crystal or, you know, the time you would take, you can just do 2 of them, having more vortexes, or 3 of them. It just depends upon the flow. And so that's a simple way of doing the vortex. You know, twisting to make the spine, bring the legs up and around. Next. This is going to be the swirl. Let that go around just a moment. And so, this is a 14 gauge. This is a little bit more sturdier, so it will tend to hold in place more. With the 18 gauge, find it easier making the copper man, because the neck where the cord will go through for the, it was a pin, that's a pin of course, it's strong and sturdy. Otherwise, if you freelance with like a thin gauge, the 18 or even a 20 gauge, and then when it comes to make the loop for the cord to go through, you have to make sure it's like really reinforced. That's all. That's the only difference. So, and this is the 14 gauge, and it's easy to start in the middle of the copper, along with the middle of the, use this one, the middle of the crystal, somewhat the middle, as such.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you were describing reinforcing, making sure that the loop was reinforced. Well, question: are you going to show that here? I didn't understand what you.
It would be more of a compare and contrast. You can see how this loop will stand alone, and because it's a little sturdier, and if it wasn't this sturdy, you will see how it would not.
You have a strong backing, is what he's saying. When you twist the wires,
Okay.
and that helps hold it all together.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after this, we're gonna do a quick one with a thinner copper, just to show you the compare and contrast with that.
Got it.
And again, this is a simple way to start in the middle, like here, and not so much straight like a perpendicular, but maybe like an angle, like 45. So if you start here, it's easy to bring this copper, and we bring it. It's not going to be a straight wraparound. It's as though you have this, and when you come, this finger, you're kind of guiding it around a little bit. You're folding it and guiding it around as such. To lay it on there like this. And almost the same way up under the bottom. You want to come and you want to fold it and loop it around as such. And then as we get closer to the end of the copper, that's fine because the way this crystal is, it's not going to fall out. We'll close this up later. And kind of the same thing with the top. Want to take it and kind of fold it on there as such. And it may come out the top, so we're going to go around one more time to kind of get this in the fold here. As such. Okay. Demonstration purposes. And we didn't check out the crystal because we like to check out the crystal and say, how do you wish to present yourself? Just kind of grabbing and start wrapping it, so now we got to check it out and see based upon the crystal shape, and it's right here. We're just gonna fold this to each other, to itself. Now, there are two ways. There's like just to fold it to itself, and it's fine. Or if you fold it to itself and keep folding it to itself, you create that swirl. There's not a whole lot here, but we can still show you how to do that swirl. Again, with the 14 gauge, starting with the tip of here to the tip of here. The tip on the tip.
Dancing tip to tip.
Uh-huh. And so that was too much on the tip. So the tip to tip, and we bring it around. And so pretty much just one time around, the cut part, if it touches the other copper, then it's pretty, there's no rough edges. And so that's one of the main things we look at. Two things. One, that the crystal don't fall out, and two, that there's no rough edges. Those are the two main things. And because it's like this, we can take this in here.
Yeah, that's.
And so we're starting now that swirl. And if we take this and fold it, and there are many ways to go about it, even if the hole is large enough, stick this inside the hole to come and bring it closer. And because this is so short, we'll show you another demonstration to have a really tight coil. But it's too short, but at least if it's touching, then again, there's no sharp edges, and the crystal is secure in the bottom. It's not going to come out. Now for the top, what we're gonna do is take the cutter. We want to cut it, so we want to make sure that there's enough room to form this is a pendant, of course, to form the loop for the pendant. And we'll use these. This is great things to have because we can take this and almost like the bottom, the only difference is we're going to have a larger hole, so we're not going to go exactly to the tip. Come like so here, or if you do go to the tip, just kind of keep in mind it can touch, but you want to have room for the cord to go through. And maybe straighten it up a bit if it's a little off. Use his thumb to hold this down so that it doesn't come off of here. Because this is a 14 gauge. And it's not going to come out. It's pretty secure. And because the 14 gauge is stronger, this one loop holds.
I see what you mean.
Mm-hmm. For example, let's see, that was 18.
That's what I did. Listen to this. Trying to secure it.
On the side.
Sure.
Real quick with the 18. So you bring it around. Same little concept here.